right. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Today, everyone, we have a Master Teacher Midi Ana with us today to talk to everyone about her teaching journey and some advice she would give to her fellow HAWO teachers. So welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Great, great. So let's start off with a discussion about your journey as a teacher. You have a very interesting history, and you've actually lived and taught in China. So just tell us a little bit about when you started teaching and how it brought you
Um,
to where you're at today.
I started teaching way back in 1993, maybe 92. I graduated from college with a degree in marine science and creative writing, and it was right at a different recession. So I just jumped right into substitute teaching. And then throughout the years, I've substitute taught, and then I've taught computer science, and I've taught in preschools when my kids were really little, and then I taught on an island. So I've taught in a variety of settings, and then we built a cabin on this island that I was teaching computer science on. And when I finished the cabin, like we did it ourselves, I thought that we were just going to live there forever and be happy. And my husband's like, well, the cabin was your dream. My dream is to go to China. Um, so I was kind of like, wow, okay. So we applied to teach English in China. There was a community class at the community college. They had a class on like how to live abroad. But he went and he took it. And so we signed up with the links that they gave us online, and he got hired to teach in China. And we we were really excited about it. We were going to teach in Dalian. We had a 2-year-old and at that time a 13-year-old. And so they were like, yeah, let's go. And so we were very excited, researched Dalian. It sounded so beautiful. We couldn't wait to get there. And then about a week or two before we were, we booked our tickets. About a week or two before we left, we get this, well, never mind, we changed your mind about this position. You're going to go teach at the police university in Shenyang. And we were called, oh, okay. So we're like, all right, well, that's different. But it was 2008, so everything was about getting ready for the Olympics. And so we went there actually to teach the officers English to help at the Olympics. So that it turned out to be super cool, but I was just going to be a stay-at-home mom. And the interesting thing about a Chinese employer is that, they kind of control your life in a little different way than an American employer would control your life. So we're arrive in Shenyang, and we're driving to our new university, and we're in the car, and the man who's in charge of us says, okay, you look healthy, you're ready to teach too. And it was just like that. I was teaching in China. I had planned to go over there and just be a mom, and whoa, I'm teaching police officers too. So it was just like this. I had got a hippie upbringing, and then I'm in a police university. So it was just wow. But one of the interesting things about that was that a lot of people don't realize that Chinese students take the college entrance exam, and it tells them where they're going to go. Maybe they get 4 or 5 choices of where they're going to go. And, it kind of picks the people for what they think they will be good at and succeed at and what the country needs. So these students didn't want to be police officers either. So it was like a really interesting thing, because they did their final exams, to be very fair, all on computer. So I have to listen to like 100, exams of the same sort of speech, like, why did you pick this university? So I heard like a lot of students' experiences. My dad dragged me and beat me at the gate. I got, when I did the first time I did the finals, I realized like, wow, like I didn't really expect to be here, and I'm making the best of it, and I realized my students were too. So that was really interesting. But at the time we were there were only 80 Americans in Shenyang, and it was a city at that time of, I believe, 11 million people. So everywhere we went, there's like paparazzi. Like my kids were like Michael Jackson's kids. They like went out with like towels over their face because they would pinch their cheeks and pull their hair. You could never have enough clothing on, so they would pinch your skin if any skin was showing. It was really like, wow. So we were doing some business at the consulate, And they're like, you know what, you guys like China, you might try Harbin. We go up there all the time, and Harbin, there's, you won't stand out as much because it's on the Russian border. So we're like, oh yeah, we think we want to stay in China. So we took the consulate's advice and went up to Harbin and taught at an engineering university. And yes, everyone left us alone. They just spoke Russian to us, and we just pretended like your Russian is bad. Like I learned how to say it in Chinese. And we taught at the engineering university, and it was a totally different type of student at the engineering university. I will say something about their college entrance exam. It seems like terribly harsh and cruel to have the government decide your future, but what we saw, the difference is the police officers, that they were actually really people. They, like, I don't know how this test can figure out who's a people person and who is an engineer. Like, these engineers were just, stereotypical, math brain engineer. Like, they did a good job of sorting them. I will say that. But during the summer, we wanted to see China. So we ended up living over there the first time for 4 years. And so the summer, we would pick a city and then go work for a private language school in the different cities, or sometimes they would call them camps. So we got to meet, like, when you travel, you don't really meet the people the same, stay in the hotel as you do, like, in an experience like this. So we first taught in Dalian, our dream city.
Hey, how about the English levels from the different areas? Did you find that it's pretty standardized in how students learn English, or it really varies by which part of China they come from?
So we taught in North China, South China, and then I even taught Koreans in Beijing. What I saw in the language schools is like, there's like everybody from like, hello, all the way, just like you see online. Online is a very good example of like what you would see if you went over there in person, of the language levels. There are a lot of the teaching they're very good at reading. They have the grammar. The Chinese teachers are excellent at explaining grammar in a way that they can understand. And so what I see is the parents are working really hard so that their children have a native English accent, a Native American accent. Like they want the accent from the foreign teacher. And I will say that they are giving everything so that their children succeed. Like I taught children over there that I know the program was very expensive. The little girls coming 5 days a week, and one of the words was shower. I'm like, oh, did you take a shower today? No, we take showers on Wednesdays. I was like, oh, and it turned out like they didn't have indoor plumbing. Like they were spending, more, all their money so that their child could succeed. Like they felt that was their priority. And it may be different now, because this is, 10 years later, I guess at this point, but their parents really sacrificed to get to where they are, to be able to afford these lessons for them, even if they're in a middle class. Like there's been a lot of sacrifice for them to be where they are. So when they want their children to learn English, I think you have to think about in the way of differently than an American teacher, like this is the curriculum, I deliver it. You have to kind of give the empathy to where they're coming from.
So you mentioned like parental expectations, and the accent's probably the most important thing. Did you find, as you were talking to parents, there were other things that were different that they were looking for an American teacher than they would expect from a Chinese teacher?
But they want their child to be able to ask and answer. So they're looking for complete sentences. They really care. Like before online choice, they would have glass walls in the language schools, and you would see their faces pressed against the windows. Like they're watching. Like the Chinese teacher, like, no, you have to stay out in the hall. Like if you let them, they would be in the classroom. They're like, hey, pay attention. Like if their kid isn't doing something, hey, they're on them, which is very different than American classroom. I can't imagine having that experience in an American classroom. But I really think they care a whole lot about their child's education, and they're very involved. Do you have homework? What is it? They're going to make sure it's done. And when I taught at the university level, I taught teachers that were going abroad, or college faculty, and so they were telling me their experience as parents. Like what the Chinese teacher delivers what the student needs to learn that day. If the student didn't get it, too bad. It's the parent's job to make sure they understand before the next day. And so that even if the parent isn't sitting right next to your student, I imagine that they are watching this video later. I would almost bet money somebody is watching this video later, like, hey, you were sleeping, you know, like they don't, the behavior problems, if you, you know, they're addressed at home, you know, I feel like. So, but I think that it's a wonderful thing to have the online classes, because when I was a parent over there, I had a child that I enrolled in a Chinese school. I adopted a Chinese boy who's deaf. And so he did go to the deaf school in my town, and I had to take public transit to deliver him to school, public transit to get him back, you know, like, so 2 or 3 hours of my day were spent just trying to get my kid to school while trying to work full time. And that's very normal for these parents. And then afterwards, they would be going from language school to Guzheng school to, you know, whatever other activities. And these kids' schedules are full. So the opportunity to be able to take English at home takes a lot of pressure off the families, I think. And I've talked with some of the students about, like, do you prefer the one-on-one lessons or the group lessons? And what's really interesting is a lot of them prefer the group lessons, because when it's one-on-one, it's very intense, like, oh my gosh, you know, but in the group, you can relax a little, you know, everybody's in the same boat. That feels very comfortable to them. So yeah.
Great. And so you kind of mentioned that a little bit, like the expectations of an online teacher. Like what do you feel like you've done both? What are the big differences in your style of having taught in person and teaching online now?
Well, I just always picture the parents on the other side of the glass wall when I teach. So I always think about that. And then I just always try to really give everybody I'm teaching a lot of respect. So I respect that the parents want the student to learn this, but I respect that the student has just had a really long day before they talk to me, or a lot of times on Saturday morning, they have just been woken up out of bed to talk to me. So I try to make it fun and engaging, but I really want them to learn, because it's important for their future. You know, I was over there during the recession. I left right about the recession, but I saw the recession hit China, and this university students trying to get a job, they need English. They have to interview in English. Even if they'll never speak English, they'll have some kind of interview experience in English, or they'll be taking an English placement test. You know, even though they never use English in their job, it's an international language, and so it's important for them to learn to succeed over there. And there's so many people in competition, you know, it's just intense. And I think that's another big difference. Like, you know, it's very normal to have 40 to 60 kids in your class in China. And you wouldn't have that in America. You wouldn't have that in the primary school. You wouldn't have that, you know, in high school, maybe, I don't know. But it's very normal there to be that way. And they have teachers that go with them the whole way, you know, like, so you start in first grade, and your teacher will stay with you till 6th grade. Which I think, you know, sometimes I hear they're changing it, like they'll just stay till 3rd grade and you'll have somebody new 4th through 6th. So they're not used to a lot of change. Like, they know what they have an expectation, and they've built this rapport, and they know what her hot spots are. So they know how to, like, dance around the teacher carefully. It's very different. Like, for the change of teachers all the time, I think is a little, like, you know, stress for them. They haven't been taught to, like, roll with it, you know, because they haven't needed to do that. You know, if you're a teacher in China, you're going to be there, and you're going to be there every day, and you're not going to have a lot of surprises, you know. So that's, I think, a different thing for them to experience, different teachers.
And what are, like, the expectations, like a teacher's workday? It sounds like it's really long. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's why we taught at the university level, because it's not so bad at the university level. I think the teachers the people that I know that have been teachers are, like, my son's teacher. She gets there maybe 7 o'clock in the morning, and she has her tea, and the students get there at maybe 8 o'clock. And it's the student's responsibility to clean the classroom, which is different. I mean, they have a lot of people that clean the halls and the bathrooms, but the students are expected to take part in cleaning the classroom. So the students tidy up the classroom and have it all ready for her to walk in at 8 or whatever time she starts teaching. And then she will go till 3. And she doesn't have, like, a planning period that I understand. There's none of that. She's like their buddy all day long. And then after 3, then she might be off, but a lot of them, if, you know, because my student was deaf, and so the deaf teachers don't quite have the same pressures as the regular mainstream students did, that they then after class they will teach other extra, you know, you can get paid to teach like a math class after class, you know, like it's kind of like an after school program, but without the fun and games.
Great.
So,
Really interesting. Helpful.
yeah, so it's long days, and then they have to go home and help their children learn whatever they didn't learn at school. So yeah.
Good. All right. Well, so let's talk a little bit about your classroom. Could you tell me a little about your setup, how you organize your online classroom?
Okay. So I have I'm in a farmhouse. I have pictures on the wall, like there's my house.
Oh, beautiful.
And so this is one of the rooms in the farmhouse, and behind me is a closet because it's nice and white. Over here I have pictures of my farm. I was playing basketball today. My lesson was about basketball, so we're having a little slam dunk layups, you know. So I might put something right here, but I like to have pictures of my farm. You know, I think that they're very interested in how the American life is different than their life, and especially because I live on a farm, it's very different. Most all of your students live in a metropolis of, you know, millions of people. So then I have baskets of toys or whatever kind of prop I'm going to need. Like this is my whole alphabet. I got something for every letter in this one. And I kind of line up, like again, today was my basketball. So I have a basketball.
I thought it was going to be a small one.
No, well, I do the reward system a little differently than other people. So I go through the whole class. I find like to stop every 10 stars. Do it for the maybe little ones, or the, you know, very beginning ones. I will do it that way, but I go through, and whoever gets the most stars at the end gets a fabulous prize. Like today was all about balls. So, ooh, you have the most stars. You get, ooh, this big ball. Oh, great job, Sally. You get, oh, a baseball egg, you know, like, and I go through 4 prizes, and like today the basketball is flat. I'm like, oh, it's a flat basketball, you know, try harder, Sam, or, you know, whatever his name is, you know. So I have like a really dud prize at the end, you know, and they really like it, you know. I just did it like one day as a fluke, and then they were just like sold. So they wait, and like I've seen like the parents come in to video on their phones like what the prizes are going to be. So it's kind of like hard to think of 4 different prizes every day, but it keeps them engaged. So I try to do that.
Great, that's excellent. So how, kind of on that same subject about building rapport, sounds like the dud prizes and the fun prizes are great. What other things do you do to build rapport with students?
Oh, always at the beginning, you know, I really try to take some time to get to know them. And because I know my geography in China, like, oh, I know where you are, you know, like I find out where they're from. And so I can ask them, you know, even if I don't know the city, I will quick Google it and, you know, like find out, be able to like, oh, did you go to the, you know, like whatever today? Or like, I try to watch their weather, because weather's like, you know, like that's an English opener, a lot of conversation. So I'm like, oh, how was the weather today in Shenzhen? You know, like, and like lately there's been this red rain. Oh, you know, like there's like terrible thing, you know, and the windows are breaking, you know, and so they'll tell me about it. It's very, you know, like they're very like, oh, the weather. So it's kind of interesting to talk to the weather, them, or if they're in sports. I teach a little boy who goes to one of the sports schools in China. He's going to be a hockey player. And like, it's really like, it's fascinating for me. I've taught the adult end of that, you know, where somebody was a hockey player. So it's really interesting to hear his experience. And so I really try to like build a relationship and rapport. And like, you know, like everybody has those students that are a little on the naughty list. And like, I work harder for them. I'm like, all right, you know, like they'll be sending me some ugly pictures down there, you know, not like anything really offensive, but you're just like, you know, teacher blow up, you know, like they'll have the bomb and they'll put it on my face, you know, whatever, you know, I can roll with it. And so I will go out of my way to like try to bring that student, you know, some joy, or, get them so they're involved. And if they hate the other students, I work really hard to change that, like, oh, you don't mean that, like, so I try to, work on everybody. I think
How
that's
about the parents as well? Is that part of?
I don't really see the parents. If the parents are there, I have had like the child's in the hospital and I had a dad take the class in sunglasses. Like, like it's had that much fun. Like these are really an enjoyable experience for these students. And so like the dad is in his sunglasses. I don't even know what's wrong with the kid, but he just types he's in the hospital. And the dad I know can speak decent English, and so I just like, oh, so-and-so's dad, like I just included the dad the whole lesson, and that kid just keeps booking. So it's working. So yeah, I sometimes they'll have like little sister come in and I'm like, little sister, and I'll like, if somebody walks in the room and they're engaged in it, I'll bring them in because everybody else is kind of like, ooh, what's going on in so-and-so's house? So I just try to keep it active,
Gets them excited. How do you get the kids to move when you're
Well,
teaching?
like today was the basketball, so I'm like, pass the ball, and then there goes a little icon thing of basketball, can pop up in some of their windows, but not everybody has that. So, like that's always like, oh, you have to pass it to so-and-so, and then I hold the orange ball up, like pass it to so, like I try to get them to do the hand motions. We do the singing in the beginning. I know that they cut out the songs for a lot of the higher levels, but when they have a song for the higher levels, I do it to hip hop, and I get them to like hip hop it because I can't sing worth anything. So I just make it a big joke, the song, but they love it. They eat it up. And like if there's any word with emotion, absolutely, I'm going to do it. Or like a lot of the Timmy kind of like, I'm better than, or Cindy, like I give the little people a little head, little head shakes, little personality quirks to little characters. So I try. I think it is hard. And it's also hard because they've been trained like sit there and pay attention, so it is a little hard to break the mold into getting the motions.
Yeah, it sounds like with the older kids, the hip hop is helpful. Do you have any other tips? Because that seems to be the age, level 4, level 3, where the kids just don't want to move
Oh,
at all.
I turn on, I watched some of the other teachers' suggestions. And so I hadn't been turning on the pen the whole time. I turn on the pen, I draw the characters and I let them blow them up, like even if they're doodling to draw their little guy, I'm gonna blow up. Like they're involved. They're moving their hands, or you're like, I'm like, get whatever it is, and you get a star, and they want that fabulous prize at the end. So they will go get, like whatever we're talking about. They will get it. If it's in the house, it's coming because they'll shout back, and somebody will be delivering the toy, So yeah.
And so that ways do you get the kids learning from each other, helping each other?
Well, I do a double star, like obviously if so-and-so is like kind of struggling and somebody jumps in, if they're not rude about it, then they get a star too. But if they try to talk over each other, then I'm just gonna like mute. Like you can tell when somebody's being helpful and when somebody's trying to shut somebody else down. So but I have them talk to each other. I'm like, oh, ask so-and-so who do they want on their team, like we kind of play it that way. And if somebody's absent, ooh, they always get the dud prize if they're absent, because I think that I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure they watch the class later, that they're going to catch up. I don't know though. So we do that, and then if there's a song and we can change the name, we'll sing it to the absent person's name, and they know I do this, so when they're absent, they know that I'm going to have sung a song in their name, like I just really try to keep them involved. And like when I don't do the teams as much because I keep having an odd number of students, 3, so it's harder to do the teams with 3, but when I had teams, I would mix up the teams to keep it lively, not just girls against boys, but like these 2 girls, and so yeah. and we talk about like what they have in common, you know, like I've tried to like find out about their lives. I'm like, so some of these little girls do Latin dance, you know, so like, ooh la la, you know, so we talk about like Latin dance is athletic, you know, like that has something in common with hockey, which is athletic, you know, so we try to bring the common things. I had some students that didn't get along, but they get along fine now, you know, like in the beginning, they didn't like each other. Because I know Chinese enough now, like I understand what they're saying a lot of times. And I don't speak much Chinese in the class unless I hear them like really like say something I don't like. Then I will just like slip it in there like, oh, I forgot she speaks Chinese. So, but I mean, the little ones, I will kind of like, you know, say like, where's, I know, you know, like I will, you know, use those for the little ones, but the older ones, I don't try to speak Chinese in class. I think they don't want, when they came over there, they were glad I didn't speak Chinese, although that made my life kind of hard, but they don't want you to speak Chinese. They want you to speak English with their kids.
So, how about any advice? Do you have any advice for your fellow teachers in terms of teaching Chinese kids online?
I think it's a lot of fun, and you just have to kind of look at it through their eyes too. I think it's hard to know somebody from another culture with, you know, you do need to know their culture, and to just, they're looking for you to be happy. You know, if you come in there grumpy, they're gonna attune. Do you know the word attunement? Yeah, where everybody attunes to you, so they're gonna attune to you. I sit on a ball. I think this is like the best thing ever.
Oh.
So it makes it so you can dance. It like I have office chairs, but I find that when you're sitting in an office chair, you've been trained just like they've been trained to sit. You've been trained to sit. So in the ball, I can get a lot more movement, and I think that it brings up your energy level. I think you have to have a lot of high energy to do this. So I don't know.
Well, that's a great suggestion about sitting on the ball because as teachers, it's very, after the third class, you're kind of like, so
Yeah.
it's nice to have something that gets you excited. And
Yeah, I mean, you can wiggle, and then they're wiggling. I mean, they don't know I'm sitting on a ball. They just think I'm crazy, I guess. I don't know. But it really, like, it's one of the things that you can get them to do, you know, because I'm moving all the time. So you know, they feed off of your energy. You know, they're going to mirror your energy even.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you.
So, 再见，谢谢，thank you.
再见，谢谢你，bye.